What's up, guys? Welcome back to the Dinosaur channel. This is your home on the internet for all things dinosaur and prehistoric, and we've got our coverage of the next episode of Prehistoric Planet. Today's episode, Oceans. I didn't like it. I didn't like it at all. I gotta say, I've said this from the first episode of Prehistoric Planet, when we first had that scene with the little plesiosaur, little elasmosaur. This show, they don't shine under the water. It's just not good. And I think it's because it's probably has to do more with the technology of just like CGI underwater dinosaurs just not looking very good. I think a lot of it has to do, we've talked about this before, it's like animals that you see on your everyday basis, like fish and coral, looking so real, because for the most part, most of what they shot here was real footage underwater, interspliced with fake CGI animals swimming around. It really only kind of looks believable when the animals are very far away. And so in this first opening scene, where we have this little baby mosasaur creature, it looks adorable, and the CGI model is really good quality, but it just doesn't blend in with the background at all. Like, not even in the slightest. It doesn't even slightly look good, in my opinion. It looks completely unbelievable, and this is a common theme throughout the entire episode, besides the one dinosaur that we see. Literally every single animal in here, just, I'm not sold the effect at all. And I think that's fine, and I'm happy that Prehistoric Planet tries other things. You know, even while I was watching this episode, I was thinking to myself, I was like, okay, they've got, like, I'm happy that they have to try other things, because them trying other things means that maybe in the future we'll also get, the Ice Age animals, like, Cenozoic and mammoths and saber-toothed tigers and all kinds of amazing animals that existed back then as well. And it just means that every once in a while we need to sit through an episode in the water, and I can deal with that as a lover of this show. I can definitely deal with that. It's not that bad. So, I mean, let's open up with the first part of this episode. We got this little tiny mosasaur thing hunting around. It's cool. The nighttime scene's a little bit cooler. I really like how the moon's light reflected off of this animal a lot. I kind of hated this whole scene with the light up fish. It just kind of felt like they were trying to give me an epileptic shock throughout the episode, and I didn't really appreciate that. I also, again, don't think the footage of the fish with the neon lights looked very good. We then jump off to North America, where there's a feeding going on with these ancient birds. They kind of look like cormorants. I'm forgetting the name as well, but super, super cool. Again, unfortunately, CGI, it doesn't sell it to me at all. Doesn't look real even for a second, in or out of the water. But I love the actual dynamic here. And Xiphactinus coming into play, trying to eat them, and succeeding on one occasion was super, super cool. Xiphactinus is probably the most believable looking animal in this episode, just because that fish kind of looks like an arowana, and I think they had a lot of references to kind of base off of modern day creatures like the Amazon arowana. So I think that's cool. Did it look good? No. But did it look more realistic than other fish? Kind of. Yeah, for the most part, I think so. It looked a little bit better than some of the other creatures in this episode. And again, the dynamic of them sort of hunting together this school of fish, and then eventually the Xiphactinus being like, guess what, we're gonna start eating you birds. It was pretty cool. I like that whole like double cross thing. Added a little bit of drama, a little spice to the episode. Cool. I like that fight, but overall, again, not a scene I'm so happy with. And it is what it is. I'm really cool. It's really cool to me that they added a bit of diversity in here. I think probably the next scene, to me, was the more interesting part of the episode, where we go into the rock pools and we see sort of the baby ammonites beginning their life stage. I think this was cool. I think, again, the interspliced footage with the CGI ammonites over the coral reef and over the real crabs was just kind of like, it doesn't really look very real. It looks like that Pokemon Forgetting the name of it. It's a Pokemon that's made out of a bunch of bubbles, kind of like floating across. But then the hatching scene, once you actually get to see the little ammonites born, they look super good. They look super realistic. The colors looked really nice in this sort of murky tide pool water. Um, that was cool. But the actual dynamics of what they were dealing with wasn't very high stakes. Didn't really feel very dangerous. This whole sort of guesstimating that little baby animates would band together and push each other into different rock pools. I don't know if it's based in science. It seems to me a little bit like the show maybe took some liberties there, and I'm also down with that. I'm not gonna crap on them too much for making like estimates. It just didn't. I'm sure there's somebody in the comments that's gonna be like, "Oh, well, they did find this in the fossil record." But, I'm all for it. It just doesn't sound very believable, and paleontologists do tend to kind of make a lot of things up every once in a while. Again, not me saying anything bad about paleontologists, but it does happen. So overall, I thought this was a cool dynamic for the show to kind of follow the life of these little ammonite babies. And I love that we got another Pyroraptor for a moment there. It wasn't very long, but I love that we got some Pyroraptor babies. It also kind of helped us hone in the location. Probably when we were in Europe somewhere. Maybe the coast of France. So that was cool. I don't know if you guys can tell how uninterested I am in this episode, but it's just a reality. We then jump off to a Mosasaurus hunting Elasmosauruses. I don't know. This couldn't have been less interesting. It was just like the Mosasaurus, like everything was building up to the Mosasaurus doing a little pop-up out of the water and catching the Elasmosaurus and then killing it, and it was cool. You can see I'm literally yawning. This episode kind of put me to sleep a little bit. I had a hard time watching the whole thing. Maybe there's people out there that are just freaks about the underwater world, especially the prehistoric one. And that might just not be me. Maybe it's just not my cup of tea. But I don't know. I'd like to think that I do like to give everything an equal chance. And when Nigel Marven, that was that show, like the Walking with Dinosaurs in the oceans, it was so well done. And like I think that the practical effects are really necessary when it comes to underwater scenes. And you just can't get by with the CGI because it doesn't look good. Even the whole jumping out of the water, and the Mosasaur catching the Elasmosaurus and bringing it back in, even that doesn't look very good. It doesn't really sell the effect to me. Some of the shots, like the drone footage of them over the reef and stuff, and you can see the Elasmosauruses swimming around, pretty cool. But story-wise, again, it wasn't very interesting. It was just like a pod of Elasmosaurus swimming around until the Mosasaurus whacks one of them. And I was like, all right, breakfast. So, and I want to give it more of a chance. I'm just having a really hard time to. I do like that we, later in the episode, went back to the Nautiluses, the little ammonite guys swimming around, and we sort of find this sanctuary of ammonites. Love the little long ammonite guys, the little 6-foot ones, little skinny guys. That paperclip one, let's be real for a moment, all right? There's no chance that this is accurate. There's not a chance. I don't care what fossil was found. I don't care how much evidence was in this. And there's a reason why they didn't show us a full shot of its body the entire time. Is because that shit is ridiculous. An ammonite shaped like a paperclip? Get out of here. Get out of here. Was it probably an ammonite shaped like a stapler next? A desk chair? A table? A mouse? A keyboard? A coffee cup? A banana? A fish? A dish? Let's go. So yeah, overall, I think this was not it. It's cool that, and I have to say, this is shot at 25 minutes and 55 seconds of them kind of zooming out, panning out of the whole ammonite colony. Pretty dope. One of the better shots in Prehistoric Planet, but it looks like a video game. Doesn't look like real life. You're not selling the effect to me even for a second. And it's not a problem necessarily, but there are so many other beautiful shots in this series that just so sell you that what you're watching is real. I mean, they've done that to me so many times, and just even this season alone, there's been a bunch. The Ostroraptors, the Pachycephalosaurs, oh man, the Rajasaurus, all those look real. They look actually real. Last bit, we hump off the little ice planet. Another group of weird little elasmosaurs, kind of pretending to fill in the niche of like a sea lion. And yeah, not nothing, literally nothing interesting happens. They just kind of swim around. And that's it. It's literally it. Like, that's all they do. They shovel some gravel out of the ground. It's like they kind of chose the way to end this episode in the most boring way possible. I know I might be a little bit hypercritical and a little bit hyper harsh about this. I love this series. I even love this episode, but it's my least favorite episode of everything that we've seen so far. So there's got to be one episode that's just not good, you know? And it's like, this is just one of them. The last episode that we saw, Swamps, was my least favorite one up until this point, and now I take my words back because I'd rather watch that one 10 times more than I'd rather watch this one ever. I would have been happy just getting 4 episodes and not watching this one at all. Because, like, this literally, they ended it on the most... You basically... Okay, here's the dynamics of the Oceans episode of Prehistoric Planet. You had to be shocked by the CGI. Like, the story wasn't here on this whole episode. And I feel like the story could have been here. But in a lot of the other episodes, there was just really great story throughout, for the most part. Not always, but for the most part. And throughout this entire episode, there just wasn't story. There was nothing keeping me hooked to watch other than kind of the Ammonite journey. But, like, even then, not that interesting. Stakes not very high. And so then you have to fall back on amazing CGI to, like, watch the show and be like, oh, this is so cool. What I'm watching is real. And even then, the CGI here in the ocean is just not very good, in my opinion. So you had nothing to fall back on here. It just kind of turns throughout into kind of a bit of a failure. And again, it's not to say that this episode is a failure by any means. It's not to say this episode is bad by any means. It's just the worst of a really good show. So it's still really good. It's just the worst of a really good show. And I think the Mosasaurus is probably the most underwhelming Mosasaurus scene we could have ever had. I was hoping that we'd get something a little bit more exciting, but, you know, it is what it is. Other than that, guys, what can I say? Another episode of Prehistoric Planet down. We got one more in the bag, ready to go. Tomorrow, last episode, North America. Nanuqsaurus is coming in. Hopefully some more cool T-Rex stuff, even though I'm kind of tired of seeing the T-Rex. We know we're getting some more cool Triceratops stuff. Excited for that one. And let's just keep the ball rolling for another incredible season of Prehistoric Planet. Guys, subscribe to the channel. Become a member. It really helps the channel survive. And if you appreciate our support of our series of Prehistoric Planet, well, send us some love in the comments below. We love you very much. Goodbye.